In today's Farm Report, many believe keeping species off the endangered species list will involve a recipe that in recent months has proved to be successful. Rod Bain with the U.S. Department of Agriculture reports.
What does the Endangered Species Act of the future look like? Several involved in various conservation efforts over the last few years will say the glimpse they have seen is one of collaboration, investment in various forms, and win-win scenarios.
I feel we're really on a cusp of a new approach in dealing with species conservation in the United States.
That's the chief of USDA's Natural Resources Conservation Service, Jason Weller, who says working lands conservation is a key part of this new formula for success. Or put another way, keeping ag and forest lands in production while implementing conservation practices that both protect natural resources and wildlife habitat. That template of collaboration and partnership between landowners, stakeholders like conservation groups, and state and federal entities has been expanded in recent years to address specific species with potential for listing under the Federal Endangered Species Act, taking a proactive approach in conservation measures. Interior Department Deputy Assistant Secretary Michael Bean says perhaps the best example of this is the fate of the western sage-grouse and what an ESA listing would have meant to farmers and ranchers in 11 western states.
The decision not to list that species was widely heralded as a real breakthrough in endangered species accomplishments.
But the ESA no-list decision on the sage-grouse is just one of a series of success stories over the past few months. Wyoming-based rancher and president of the Family Farm Alliance, Patrick O'Toole, says these successes represent perhaps a new hope for farmers and ranchers on what the ESA can present and not take away.
There's no inherent contradiction between conservation and production if you're smart enough to figure it out. And I think that's what this experiment that we're involved in right now is. There's an experiment, and can we work together in a way to find that balance and have it all?
And as Brian Rutledge of the National Audubon Society emphasizes, the proactive approach must be continued to assure the future collaborative successes of protecting wildlife, habitat, and agricultural and natural resource production.
We have to engage early, and that's what happened in Wyoming with sage-grouse. We've waited far too long in far too many instances for others with an interest to take our best interests into their hands instead of keeping them in our own.
I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C. Support continues for over 60 ag organizations in their efforts to enter new and expand existing export markets. USDA Tuesday announced the latest round of funding for 2 export programs. Over $172 million will go to various companies and cooperatives under the Market Access Program, while another $27 million plus focuses on generic promotion of commodities under the Foreign Market Development Program. Among the recipients for fiscal year 2016 is U.S. Wheat Associates. And as the organization's Dalton Henry explains,
without the Market Access Program and Foreign Market Development Program, it would be really difficult for U.S. Wheat Associates and other cooperators to do the work that we do overseas. The USDA really matches producer dollars almost 2 to 1 and allows us to staff offices around the world to provide marketing assistance and then also to provide technical service and to promote the benefits and especially the quality of U.S. wheat to our customers wherever they may be. And USDA is certainly a key partner there.
I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
If you are going to go and buy and cook a frozen turkey this Thanksgiving, which is next Thursday, you may need to plan ahead for the thawing process. The USDA's Gary Crawford has more.
It was Julius Caesar who said, "I came, I saw, I conquered." But this Thanksgiving, many of us hopefully will be saying, "I came, I thawed, I cooked it." This is the one time of year that most of us have to deal with preparing a giant frozen bird and getting it onto the table on time. Now, before we even get to the turkey we're buying this year, many of us have in that freezer one or more turkeys that have been in there for who knows how long. And indeed, at the Agriculture Department's Meat and Poultry Hotline, the number of which we'll give you in a minute.
The most popular question we get at Thanksgiving is, how long is my turkey safe in the freezer?
That's Tina Haynes, a food safety expert. She's been working the phones at the hotline for many years, and she told me,
we do have a contest. Who gets the call with the oldest turkey?
And indeed,
we get some pretty old turkeys.
Yeah, some people call with turkeys 4 and 5 years in the freezer, some older than that.
So they'll call the hotline and say, can I still use this?
And the answer is...
yes.
Yes, at least from a safety point.
I will tell people, especially at Thanksgiving, is if it's been more than a year, it's safe but the quality may be affected. And so the taste may not be exactly the same. It could be fine, but do you want to take that chance serving your guests meat that may not taste as good? So if it's more than a year, I would say get another one for Thanksgiving. Save the extra one to cook later.
And you can serve it to people you don't like, right?
Didn't say that.
No, she didn't say that. But now you've got to thaw that turkey in time for the big meal. Tina Haynes says the best, safest way, let it thaw in the refrigerator so it stays below 40 degrees while thawing so bacteria won't grow in the process. Problem with that is time.
You should allow approximately 24 hours for every 5 pounds. So if you have a 12-pound turkey, it would take 3 days to thaw in the refrigerator.
Holy cats, many of us don't plan that far ahead and don't have that kind of room in the fridge. So the next best method?
Leave the turkey in its original wrapping, put it in a sink of cold water, and let it sit for 30 minutes. And then you change the water every 30 minutes to keep the thawing going. If you don't, that water gets very, very cold and slows down the thawing process.
A process that will take about a half hour per pound, so a 12-pound turkey will take about 6 hours. Now, if you are like me...
I'm late.
And the guests are coming in before that 6 hours is up.
You can cook it from the frozen state. People don't believe that, but yes, you can. And it comes out very well. Actually, the breast meat isn't so dry.
But it will take 50% longer to cook than if it were thawed. Tina says thawed, the average 12-pound turkey would take about 3 hours to cook. If it's frozen, add another hour and a half to that. Now, if your guests want turkey sooner than that, give them a live one. Let them work it out for themselves. For more food prep and safety information, you can call the Meat and Poultry Hotline at
1-888-MP-HOTLINE or 1-888-674-6854.
Or go online to AskKaren.gov. AskKaren.gov. In Washington, Gary Crawford for the U.S. Department of Agriculture. For some corn growers in some Midwest states,
It's been somewhat of a struggle to get some of the late crops out.
Agriculture Department meteorologist Brad Rippey says as we start the week nationally, we've got 96% of the corn in the bin, actually a little better than the average pace, but
Only 3% harvested during the week, though. So again, some of that late acreage hit by some rain. And we also had a pretty big wind event across the Midwest. Some reports of lodging, knocking over the remaining corn crop in a few areas.
Meanwhile, the corn harvest is totally done in 3 states, Illinois, Missouri, and Ohio. Gary Crawford for the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Washington.